Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is Wednesday evening, which of course means one thing. It is that time of the week where we look ahead to Saturday's fixture with our match preview show. And this week it is Stephen Clemence's Gillingham against Nigel Adkins' Tranmere Rovers. And for that, I'm pleased to announce that I think the second or third time now, we are joined by Ben Jones, a Tranmere Rovers fan, football fan, cricket fan, sports fan in general. Ben, appreciate you coming on as always and hope you are well.
Yep. Yeah, great. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Looking forward to this chat. Another big game coming up, and dare I say it, probably a bit bigger for the Gills rather than Tranmere at the moment. But
Yeah,
as
sure.
good a place to start is always recent form, current form, however we want to call it. In terms of the Gills, we'll just run through that quite quickly. Last six have garnered 8 points from 18 available. We currently sit ninth with 54 points from 36 games. There have been wins, impressive ones well, against Wrexham and Salford in recent weeks. Couple of draws against Swindon and Stockport County, and then 1-0 defeat to Newport. And of course, most recently, Tuesday night, we went down to fellow playoff hopefuls Barrow by 2-0. In terms of Tranmere, a bit more hit and miss, 6 points from the last half a dozen, Ben. That's come in the way of a win against Stockport by 4-0, which was very impressive. A hard-fought 1-0 win against the basement boys, Sutton United. But then apart from that, it's been 4 defeats, 2-1 against Doncaster Rovers, 3-2 against Morecambe, 1-0 against fellow strugglers Forest Green, and a 3-1 reverse against Swindon Town. First point I wanted to look at was the contrast between form at Prenton Park and form on your travels, because it couldn't be more vast if you tried, to be quite honest. It's 1.77 points per game on your own patch, and you were very good in the reverse fixture against us back in November and comfortably won the game by 3-1. But then to flip it on its head, away from home, you average just 0.61 points per game and are currently 23rd in the form table. I think it's only Sutton that are below you in that table, with only 3 wins and 13 defeats in 18 games. Can you put your finger on why there's such a vast differential between the two? Probably not, because if you could, you tell Nigel Adkins.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're a side at the minute that rely a lot on energy and pressing and things like that. And obviously at home, you get a bit of extra energy from the home crowd and those kind of things. I would also say that kind of when we do win the ball with our pressing, we're quite quick in counter-attacking. And Prenton Park's probably one of the best pitches in the league, so it lends itself really well to counter-attacking, because you can those quick crisp passes. Whereas you go to somewhere like Barrow, as you would have seen, or Bradford, or wherever it is, and the pitches are nowhere near as good. So I think there's a couple of things there. Those two things play into it. I also do think we've been a bit unlucky at times away from home. So Forest Green and Doncaster, we dominated both of those 2 games. We had the lion's share of possession in both of them, 60-odd% possession. At Forest Green, I think we had about 20 shots at Forest Green, and maybe 15 at Doncaster or so. Even at the weekend at home to Sutton, the keeper got team of the week, even though we won. So we're creating quite a lot of chances at the minute.
It was 21 at Forest Green.
Yeah, 21, and we just seem to be encountering a lot of goalkeepers having sort of their game of the season at the minute. So like a few weeks back, the one you mentioned there, when we beat Stockport 4-0, Ben Hinchcliffe got team of the week when we beat them 4-0. He made 5 genuinely world-class saves in that game. And had a Stockport fan message me after the game saying that should have been 8-0 to Tranmere. And that was against, at the time, top of the league Stockport. So
yeah, and that was that was probably the start of their drop-off, wasn't it? You was probably the ones that
we were probably
the
first one. Or sorry, they might have lost to Crewe at home just before that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they lost 3-1 at home to Crewe just before that. But yeah, so I think the last 6 fixtures don't tell a full story. I think since maybe Christmas kind of time away from home, we've been a bit better. We picked up good wins at Salford, Grimsby, and Harrogate in that time. Playing pretty well in them, and then some of the other away games we've been a little bit unlucky not to get anything. But I think the main thing really is it's more about a style kind of thing. We're really strong against sides that look to play out from the back. even when we went to kind of Mansfield and they tried to play out from the back, and
Which, if I recall correctly, is what we tried to do
yeah,
at Prenton Park, because there was a big
yeah,
thing about it, because obviously it was, I think, 3 games into Stephen Clemence's reign, and we'd been told about this change of direction. I think, if I remember rightly, we completed about 600 passes, but like
yeah,
I always say, it's where you completing them,
yeah,
and you were very good at pinching it off us in dangerous areas and turning over the
yeah.
ball in our third or our half of the pitch.
Yeah, generally what we've been pretty good at under Adkins. He's obviously seen that the squad's not quite as strong as we'd like it to be, so he's trying to maximise the potential out of it. And what we are good at is a very hard-working squad. They run a lot. They're very fit. They're tactically strong. And in so much as we're quite happy to sit offsides, let them have possession around the halfway line. But as soon as they make a pass into the fullback areas or something like that, we will spring a trap and look to turn over possession. And then we've got 3 or 4 guys who are very strong on the counter. And that's where we look to hurt teams. So I think you saw that bit at Prenton Park. From memory, Rob Apter scored twice in that game on the counter.
Yep.
Which I think I even said to you before that game that would be exactly how we would set up to
Yeah, you
try and
did.
play
Yeah, I think, if I
him.
remember rightly, you called it to a T, to be fair. I
Yeah,
think we'll
but
probably be slightly different now, which to make
yeah.
it
So
be interesting.
sorry, it's my dog making a bit of racket in the background. Getting a bit jealous that she's being ignored.
No worries.
Yeah, we've done that to pretty much everyone who's tried to play that way against us. The only exception I would say was probably MK Dons at home when we lost 2-1. But even in that game, both the goals came from set pieces. They didn't really cut us open or anything. And it was a slight off day for us. But other than that, generally, when anyone's tried to play football, we've beat them, and typically quite emphatically as well. As you say, there was that Stockport game not so long ago. Before that, there was the 40 win over Notts County, which has started their kind of big slide down the league table where they're now bottom half.
I think everyone's who's beaten them in recent weeks, the further away you played them, it was a better
Yeah,
result. And now, like, as more
yeah,
recent as it goes, it doesn't look as impressive, does it? Because they've absolutely
yeah. Well,
fallen
we
off a
might have
cliff.
been Luke Williams last game.
Yeah, of course. So you're going back
So
sort of January time still, yeah.
yeah, because he made this. I'm not going to call it famous because it's League Two football, but he had this post-match interview where he kind of says Rob Apter absolutely destroyed us in this game, and we had no answers to him or something like that. And I was like, I've never heard an opposition manager say that about kind of a player that isn't their own.
Yeah,
And
refreshingly
it
honest.
pretty much sums up where we are. That we're very strong on the counter, and in a counter-attacking side, I would suggest that there's no one better than Rob Apter in this division. Cutting in off that right wing, he's got 9 goals in maybe 20 starts, something like that. So
I've
it's
got it as,
pretty much
yeah, I had it as 8 and 3 assists, but that's just in League Two. So there must be
yeah.
another
So
goal
I think
in
there
all
was an FA Cup
competitions,
goal
yeah.
as well. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, when you consider that's off the wing as well, that's not playing as a striker. Really prolific, and there's been games, as I say, as well, where goalkeepers have had absolute blinders, and he could have another 5 on that quite easily. Yeah, he's definitely the one you would really want to watch out for, as you already know, really, from the reverse.
Yeah, I think it's something we'd have looked at, hopefully. Otherwise, there'd have to be question marks about the
Yeah,
what's
because
going on during the week. Him and Connor Jennings were obviously the 2 names that I wrote down that
yeah,
stand out with, like I say, it's 8 goal contributions for Apter in the league and 17 for Connor Jennings, 11 goals and
yeah,
6 assists. I was listening to NTT20 the other day just to give them a bit of a plug, and they've come up with a brilliant nickname for Rob Apter. Have you heard
yeah,
it? Velosa Rob Apter,
yeah,
which I
yeah,
thought was absolutely brilliant, and that one
yeah,
stuck with me, so I wrote that down. I suppose you're at the stage now, though, Ben, where Adkins can almost experiment. You're not going to get
yeah.
relegated. It'd take a ridiculous run and a lot of other teams to drop off to even think about the playoffs. So,
Yeah.
is there a case now over the final 10 games that potentially starts looking people that have not played as much, that might be out of contract, and he might start assessing in terms of moving
Yeah.
into next season and doing that? Or do you think he's still going to go as strong as possible for as much of the season as possible? Because you don't just want your season to
It's really
dwindle
hard
out
to
and then
call
lose
because we went
momentum.
to Swindon midweek the other week and he changed 6 players, and we
Okay.
put 6 reserve players in, and we got battered, and it was
Mm-hmm.
horrific. Um, mean, Apta still played in that game, but other than that, we changed, the central midfield, the fullbacks, and all those kind of positions, and we didn't play well at all. I think whenever you make that many changes, you always lose a bit of kind of cohesion anyway.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
but kind of where we are at the minute is we've got a good, I would say, starting 11 and not too much beyond that. So when you start making
Chopping and
those number of
changing, yeah.
changes, yeah, it's not great. What that kind of did do for us, though, was the players who had played pretty much every minute this season got a rest, and we kind of came up against Sutton at the weekend who were, fighting for their lives, and
Mhm.
it's always a tough physical game against them. So it was good that our kind of main players got a rest for that one, because I think it, as you say, we're going to be safe, but if we'd gone lost at home to Sutton, people would undoubtedly have been having a couple jitters again.
Mm.
Um, because I think they would have been maybe 11 points behind us if the result had gone the other way, which is still a huge gap. But so yeah, this weekend, I think we'll go full strength this weekend because we aren't mathematically safe yet.
I
And
suppose there's also the question of integrity of the competition.
yeah,
The closer
exactly.
you
Yeah,
get when you're playing teams that have got something to play for. Maybe if it was, I don't know, like Tranmere versus Doncaster, just to pull a name, that
yeah,
both teams are probably not going to go up, not going to go
sure, yeah,
down, you could understand it. But I suppose you've got to be fair to the rest of those teams that are trying to
yeah,
chase the playoffs. In terms of next season, though, I just want to sort of pick your brains because you've said
yeah,
you've got a good start in 11, but aside from that, it's pretty flimsy underneath. So
yeah.
I've written down overhaul or tweaks. I'm assuming then it's going to be quite a big player churn in the summer if Nigel Adkins wants you get to be closer to where you want to be,
Yeah,
obviously, because Tranmere, for me, are too good to be struggling in the
yeah,
bottom third of this division.
yeah. So there's a bit of uncertainty because in the autumn there was whispers of a takeover,
Hmm.
um, which we don't really know where that's at the minute. There's kind of been talk of a couple very big companies that were potentially looking at us due to links they already have into the club and
Hmm.
links that what Palios has. Um, and if that the kind of the rumor takeover were to happen, then kind of overnight we had become, probably where Wrexham are at the minute. In terms of, we could go out and get anyone pretty much because financially we're very in a very solid position.
Hmm.
Um, we've got no debt. Our transfer budget is very sustainable. We're not racking up debt by what we're spending at the minute.
Hmm.
So if we, do have a takeover and someone wanted to come in and splurge the cash, they could quite easily. So it's hard to know too much what will happen in the summer until we get a clearer picture on whether there'll be a takeover. If there wasn't a takeover, I would say we've got a massive squad this year where half of them are National League or below standard.
Okay.
Um, we have 32 players. I would
Blimey.
be, yeah, I think it's the second biggest squad in the league after Forest Green. So um, I think that the fact that it's us and Forest Green says a lot when you look at where we are on the table as
I
well.
was going to
So
say, yeah, there's not saying it's a direct correlation, but it's probably
yeah,
more than a slight coincidence.
yeah. So I think there's 15 players who you could get rid of without, you know, any kind of hesitation, and then there's a few others who you go, well, maybe they'd be useful off the bench kind of thing. Um,
So it could be a
so I
case of
think,
get 15 out and then maybe bring in
yeah,
7 that are of better
yeah,
quality.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if, we bring in the way I like to view it is you've got 15, 16 players where you can pick any 11 of them and you don't have a drop off of
Mm.
quality within reason. Because obviously when you've got someone like a Rob Apter, there's going to be a drop off in
Of
quality whoever
course,
comes
yeah.
in for him. But beyond that, hopefully you have flexibility on and then beyond that you have maybe 3 or 4 development kids who um you get these youngsters from the Premier League academies, from the Championship academies, as we did really well in the last 2 seasons before this one,
Hmm.
when we brought in Just Acres Cogley and Ethan Bristow, both from having a complete brain freeze. Bristow was from Reading, Cogley was from Birmingham.
And they
So
are both in League One, I want to say.
yeah,
That because
so
Cogley's at
Cogley's
Bolton.
at Bolton, and he's kind of been in the top 3 right backs in League One this year, from what I've
Doesn't
been hearing.
surprise me at all. He was
Um,
phenomenal last season.
yeah, And then Bristow's got a little bit off the boil. We sold him to Minnesota in the MLS.
Hmm.
Got 300 odd thousand for him in the summer. Um, and he's currently on loan at Stockport. Um,
Oh, so he's back in our division. Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
so he's back in our division, but he's not quite refound his form. I think it sounds as though going over to America kind of unsettled him a bit and he's lost his way a little bit. Um, so it's a bit of a shame because, I thought he would really kick on in his career, and he's a bit
Mm.
younger than Cogley as well. So, um, yeah, so I think ideally we look at those, not necessarily that quality, but that kind of idea where you pick up players from these academies who haven't quite made the grade and you give them the game time.
That's it.
Uh,
And give them a platform to improve again. Yeah,
and then in doing so, they're pretty hungry to improve, aren't they? Because they want to get back to that level of being in the
exactly. Yeah.
championship, which is pretty much what Cogley's doing. Because I'd be surprised if Bolton didn't go up one way or another this year, be autos or through the playoffs. So
Hmm.
he'll end up kind of back in the championship that way. Um, but he's kind of had 2 years with us where he's maybe first year he wasn't, but second year he was certainly the best right back in the league. And I think as a club being able to point to those two players and go, well, this is what we did for them players. We brought them in when they were kind of struggling for game time in their career, and they've gone on and kind of got on to better things.
That's it. Yeah,
Which
you have to use it as a selling tool, don't you? To say
yeah,
these are X and Y were exactly the same, and look
yeah,
where they are now. Yeah, you've got to use that as a marketing tool,
yeah.
100%.
And then even from the other side, we brought Connor Jennings back to the club, who was a bit of a hero for his kind of um, period with us between 2016 and 2020, when he was part of the squad that got back-to-back promotions,
Hmm.
National League and then League Two into League One. Um, he had a bit of a battle with cancer while he was away
Mm.
from us, and I think he spent time at Stockport and Hartlepool. Did okay with Hartlepool last season, and when we signed him in the spring, I think a lot of people, myself included, were a bit kind of, is he really going to be up to the grade? Um, but as you pointed out, he's got 11 goals, 6 assists in the league, and you can't really argue too much with those numbers in with the way he plays as kind of a support striker who's, you know, basically linking the play up and so on. He's not playing as a poacher or anything like that. So pretty impressive numbers. And also the thing we've had from him, he's been a real leader. Even though he isn't the captain, he leads by example. He organizes the press. So you see him gesturing to other players when to press, when not to press,
Hmm.
who to press, all those kind of things. So yeah, I think it's really important that we recruit the right personalities in the summer, and also, you know, quality over quantity. Um, but there's that just little thing in the background where if there's a takeover, then suddenly we're looking at possibly a different caliber of player where at the minute you would say Rob Apter probably goes back to League One. But if we have a takeover, he's really enjoyed his time at Tranmere. He's obviously had a really strong season. If we suddenly have a pot of money, then what's to say we couldn't bring him back in the summer? So,
Absolutely. So I suppose there's quite a lot hanging on this because my final question was, is Nigel Adkins the man? I know he signed a new contract back in November that's to the end of the 25-26
mhm,
season, but I'm assuming, as is always the case with takeovers, if someone comes in with, they might want to go and get their own man. And again, you
yeah,
might be able to go and attract a manager of, no disrespect to the higher quality of Nigel
yeah.
Adkins, not to say that he's not, very good at the level. So let's take out the takeover for now then. Are you confident that Nigel Adkins can improve you sufficiently next season?
Yeah, so ignoring that, he will improve us.
Mm.
I mean, if you look at his whole period in charge of since he's kind of taken over, I think we're maybe fifth in the form table in that period. Um, so that's obviously a good sign because that's quite an extended period now. It's about 25
Mm.
games. So over 25 games was, I think I haven't checked it for a couple of weeks, but in and around sort of the fifth most form side. And so I would expect that were he to tweak a few players, have slightly more depth in actual quality for the first 11, we would be top half. Um, Beyond that, with our current budget, I think you need a little bit of luck to get into the playoffs.
Okay.
in terms of players getting injured. Like we've had Luke Norris injured for the majority of this season as kind of our main centre forward,
Yeah, and that
which
looked
I
a really good
ideal.
sign, obviously, because I kept an eye on that one being ex-Gills, and it looked like a really
Yeah,
good addition in the summer. Obviously, he went to
yeah.
Stevenage and did well there. He's never going to get you 20 goals, but you know
No,
he'll
no,
get
no, no.
double figures, and he's
Yeah, exactly.
directly or indirectly involved in plenty of goals with his hold-up play and that type of thing. So yeah, that must be a real sort of disappointment along with Christian Dennis. So I suppose a
Yeah.
lot in that respect has fallen on Connor Jennings as the sort of
Hmm.
senior member of the squad in terms of what you said in terms of leadership and also his
Yeah.
numbers and his output.
Hmm.
But yeah, I suppose the thing that helps Nigel Adkins even without a takeover is that you've got so many that you can get rid of that you
Yeah.
should still have sufficient budget to be able to improve the squad because you're going to be looking at quality
Yeah.
over quantity rather than this
Hmm.
vastly inflated amount of players that just
Yeah,
are
for sure.
not plenty of them are not going to get any minutes at all.
Yeah, and as I say, you've got the majority of kind of the better players are under contract, with pretty much the exception of Apter, who's on loan.
Hmm.
So it gives you a good kind of starting point for next year. And yeah, I would certainly have no concerns. We would have a similar kind of disappointment of a season where we're bottom third and um, having the jitters every now and then about must-win games and those kind of things. I think at worst we'd be kind of mid-table. I'd say with a bit of luck, maybe pushing the playoffs. And the interesting one there would be if there was a takeover, whether he would keep his job or whether he would move upstairs to like a director of football role.
Yeah,
And the thing I was saying to Gabe Sutton the other week was I actually think it's quite similar to the position Gills were in with Neil Harris,
hmm,
where he kept you up from you were in a relegation fight for a while, bottom of the league, and then he kind of
yeah,
turned it around. You ended up having a strong finish to the season. So they kind of let him have pre-season and but then got rid of him quite early into the season. I suppose it's fairly similar to Adkins in the way that when he came in, we were bottom of the league. We had
hmm,
3 points from 8 games or whatever it was. It took him a while to sort it out, and then he since pulled us away. We've kind of done that in the middle of the season rather than the end of the season, but it's a similar kind of thing.
hmm.
Um, so would they a new owner have the same kind of thought where they go, okay, well he's shown he can do that. Do we give him a pre-season, a budget, and let him have a start? But to me, if you aren't fully committed to someone, as in a manager,
Then get the new
you
man in
need
the
to just
summer.
have a clean break.
Yeah,
So, if I wouldn't have an issue with him being manager next season, but just on the basis that if he's going to start the season, he has to get a extended run. You can't. It's no good just sacking someone in October.
no, and
Uh,
that was my biggest issue with the Harris one is if we wanted such a big change of direction, Ben, then just
yeah,
say thanks after Salford last game of last season
yeah,
and give Stephen Clements or whoever it could have been the
yeah,
whole summer
exactly.
to get players in that want to play how he wants them to play. But
Yeah,
that's done now, and we've moved on. um, in terms of more immediate, obviously
yeah.
Saturday is what we want to talk about. Team news for the Gills is in terms of those that are unavailable. I'm assuming Josh Andrews still isn't fit. Unfortunately, he's picked up a muscle injury, which was a setback after making his first appearance in our colours in a B team game. Dom Jeffries is out with a thigh tear probably till the back end of the season, and Jorge Hurtado is still recovering from knee surgery. I mean, looking at recent games, I'm assuming that Nigel's not going to go away from the standard 4-4-2 that he likes to employ. So you won your last game. I'm assuming that barring any sort of injuries or suspensions, it'll be pretty much the same 11.
Yeah, the only one who could maybe change is kind of Luke Norris has been working his way back to fitness.
Okay.
Um, so he played 60 minutes at Swindon when we heavily rotated the side. And then I think against Sutton at the weekend, he played half an hour.
Yep, correct, spot
Um,
on. Yep, just looking at the
so,
substitution. Yeah, he came on for Kieran Morris after an hour. Yep.
yeah. So there's the possibility that he might start the game, but
So who
I
would that
also,
be for? Saunders, or it'd have to be for Saunders? It wouldn't be for Jennings, would it?
yeah, it wouldn't be for Jennings. It'd be for Saunders or Morris.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, it would kind of point to how we were going to play if he did come in for either of those. Because with kind of Jennings and Norris up front, you have two really physical guys who are going to work hard, good link up play, and to be a nuisance. But you lose something by taking either Morris or Saunders out of the side. Morris is really good. on the ball, good build-up play, good at retaining possession, those kind of things. Saunders is, lightning fast.
Hmm.
So, he's always on the shoulder of defenders and stretching that back line, which, when he stretches the back line, it creates space for Morris and Apter,
Hmm.
just in those pockets. So, yeah, I think it'll probably be an unchanged side with Norris coming on at some point as a pretty much a pre-planned change. Just to keep those energy levels high. And then, yeah, I think we'll play the same way regardless, which is that we'll try and be compact and hit you on the counter. But what's kind of good impact on that is how Gills play as much as anything.
Hmm.
As I was kind of mentioning to you in the chat, was
Yeah.
if you try and play out from the back, I think it really plays into our hands.
I think if Ollie Hawkins was still unavailable, we'd
Yeah,
probably play that way because that's what Stephen Clements wanted to do when he first came in.
yeah,
But I think he quickly learnt, and fair play to him, that League Two, you have to have the
yeah,
ability to go more direct and play in the final third. And I think Ollie Hawkins has changed how we play. So I think we'll try to a degree, but I certainly don't
yeah,
think we'll do it for the sake of it. And we will potentially just go and play off
yeah,
Ollie Hawkins as much as we can to counter that press, because if you lose the ball in Tranmere's half, you can set and get yourself back into your
yeah,
shape.
yeah,
But you don't want to risk having it pinched off you in your final third, and then you get turned around quickly and you're in trouble, especially if you've got Apter and someone like Saunders' pace. It could cause us a real problem. So it'd be interesting to see, because I think it'd be a different type of encounter to what we saw
yeah,
at Prenton Park back in November. And I'm hoping we're going to give you a better game and don't just pass it for the sake of passing it. And I don't think we will, because like I say, I think Stephen
yeah,
Clements has learned. Our team, I'm not sure. I think I think Stephen has admitted he got caught between sticking with the winning team on Tuesday night and trying to continue that momentum, but we just looks absolutely out on our feet. Ethan Coleman's been our best player this season. He was probably had his worst performance of the entire campaign. So I don't know whether there'll be a couple of changes. I'm not
yeah,
entirely sure. I don't think the keeper and the back five will change. It's just whether then he tweaks it in forward areas and maybe goes with Hawkins and two number 10s, or he persists with Ashley Nadesan, who
yeah,
had taken a couple of steps forward in recent weeks, but then was very poor at Barrow, unfortunately. But it could just have been absolutely fatigue, because we played on an absolute horses field at Salford at the
yeah.
weekend, and then Barrow's pitch was bobbly and patchy, and it weren't great either. So we'll have to see. We don't know if any injuries have come out of Tuesday night. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a super competitive game, which is good,
Yeah.
and especially if Adkins is still going to go full strength for us close to it. So the dreaded question before I let you go, Ben, as always, is score prediction. I've written mine down, so I'll let you go first.
I'll give you two because on the basis that I'm not quite sure how you'll play. I think if you go direct, you'll probably edge it and win 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
If you try and play out from the back again, I would reverse that score the other way around.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a game that sees one team run away with it. Obviously, I'm going to back ourselves at home. And as you
Yeah,
can see, I'm backing us to play direct because I put Ollie Hawkins to score in a 2-1 win.
yeah,
But you've got to back your own team, haven't you? I think it's a game. I'm not saying it's must win. There's still plenty of games to, points to play for. But I just think after the setback in the week, if we can get back on the
yeah,
horse as quickly as possible, it sets us up for what is another massive 7 days, because we have to go Wimbledon Tuesday and then Grimsby at home. If you can win two of them, I think we're still going to be
yeah, yeah.
right in it. Um, Thank you, mate. As always,
Yep.
really
Cheers.
enjoyed
Yep.
chatting, really enjoyed picking your brain. So thank you very much. Gills fans and Tranmere fans, if you are still watching at this point, thank you very much. It really is appreciated. Please keep hitting that subscribe button. Please keep pressing that like button, sharing the videos, commenting down below. Let us know what you think in terms of score predictions, lineups, whether you're a Gills fan or a Rovers fan. I'll put Ben's details in the description at the bottom of the video, so go and give him a follow as well. Very knowledgeable about just not just his own club, but also EFL and specifically League Two as a whole. Well worth a follow. Be back Saturday, myself and Ava and all the gang, for another match day live, the first of the final 10 cup finals, as we continue to try and get ourselves back into that top 7 for the end of season playoff. So come and say hi. But until then, I hope the rest of your week's not too stressful, and up the Gills.